Hi there, and welcome to this new social media and digital marketing talk. I'm Louise Duncan, and today we're going to be talking about how to not hate social media when it comes to your marketing strategy. We're going to go over a bunch of different things, but the main thing to keep in mind is this is all just background information and a little bit of the basics that you need to know if you want to really give your contemporary oomph to your social media platform. Myself and a business partner set up Naka Media LLP because we saw that there was a huge need in terms of social media marketing. We figured that people were really struggling, and so there must be a correlation between understanding the platform's strategy and how to make the content for it. And so that's what we do. We help you. So what are we going to be looking at today? We're going to be looking at 4 key areas. The first of which is a content strategy. We're then going to be looking at quality content. We're going to move on to authentic content and end up with obvious versus covert branding. We feel that these are 4 areas that will give you a really good baseline in terms of social media understanding, but also a little bit more about marketing. So when you're looking at refreshing your strategy or starting anew with your social media platforms, you've really got to think about the key things of where you're starting and what you need it for. Not only should you be thinking about the platform specifically that you're working with, but you should be thinking about what content is going on there, how that content will look in the end, and, as we said, build up a strategy to make sure that that pipeline is smooth. There are currently some platforms which are a bit more prominent than others, and so I'm going to talk a little bit more about those specific ones in depth now. Let's start with Instagram, because it keeps things casual. It's a really great space to sell things in, but have an audience that really wants to connect with your work. We find it really great for behind the scenes content, we find it really useful for posting selfies, but also having a really great space for some of our branded work. It's one of the better platforms because it's linked in with Facebook, and so you're able to get a really wide reach. At the same time, there's some really interesting features, such as having your shop built in, links to link trees and other platforms, as well as just having reels and videos built into the website. It's really a hot one at the moment. Talking about TikTok or Snapchat, this is a really different platform, even though it's video-based like Instagram. The main caveat is, the minute you do branded content, it's really easy to spot because there's such a huge user base of original content from any kind of creator. Now what that means is it's a great place to reach a new audience, but your content can stand out. A really wordy-based platform like Twitter or LinkedIn can be really great professional spaces. I find LinkedIn personally really great, especially for finding new work. But again, there's a different problem here. A lot of your work might need to be shared via pictures or videos, and they just don't do as well on these platforms. Whilst also, you might find that again, the wordy content is just not where your new audience is. People don't necessarily go on Twitter or LinkedIn to buy in the same way that they do on the other platforms. So it's one worth thinking that if you're more familiar with them, they might not be the best place to do your marketing. Or they could be the key. Depends on your strategy. Now, once you've got this understanding of the platforms you want to use, it's time to move on and start thinking, how are you going to use them? When are you going to use them? What are you going to use them for? What content? All of these questions have to be asked. Because at the end of the day, your audience is going to scrutinize every moment. Your strategy doesn't even have to be that complicated. It could be something simple like Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays we post selfies. Or say something like, okay, Mondays we do a video, Tuesdays we do a group update, and then on Thursdays we do a throwback to some of our past work. Something just as simple and consistent as that can really boost engagement overall on a bunch of different platforms. There is no set strategy or template for this. Unlike the content itself, you will need to plan a very targeted and unique focus to fit your needs. You will find as well that this has to evolve over time. As technologies and audiences and platforms change, you need a good strategy that can be flexible. You may also want to have a specific marketing campaign within that strategy. And so this should be planned inherently in anything that you do in the coming future. Now that you've got your strategy down, the hard work continues, because we're going to talk a little bit about the quality of content that has to go on there. You'll find that so many audiences these days, and I use audience quite broadly, anyone who's interacting with your work, will find that if it's overtly branded or even just a little bit sloppy, will disengage immediately. Users are so tech savvy and aware these days, you have to be on the ball, otherwise it will dissuade them. The kind of quality we talk about here is not necessarily hard to achieve, but it comes in the form of unique and interesting posts. Templates can be a great place to start for text posts or other types of information conveyance, as it keeps things looking similar to a set style, but also you can make them quickly and easily. There are some amazing resources online that are easy to find that you can just use. You got to be careful though, because if this is all that you're posting, templates, it can get a bit boring and unoriginal. You want to make sure that everything that you do is fun and interesting, because the minute it isn't, people start to disengage. And that can feel like a lot of pressure, but there's really easy ways to shake it up. Make sure you understand the purpose behind what you're posting. If it's just about information, that could go on a blog or on a different space, and then you can link to that. You might find that what you've got to do is actually create a live stream and talk to your audience directly, or create a pre-recorded video like this one. There are a million different ways to do it, and about understanding what you're going to be doing helps you build how you need to do it. At the end of the day, if they're new to your site or your page or whatever, you really want to grab them and keep them there. You want content that's going to make people come back again and thinking, wow, I really engaged with this. If they already follow you, then again, it's about pleasing them and making sure that they love what you're doing, whether you change it up or not. You want to keep that same audience. Your strategy needs to take these two kinds of audiences into account, whether that's new subscribers or followers, loyal followers, your friend's mum, a whole range of people are going to be really interested in what you're doing. And so you've got to make sure that your content is appealing to everyone. You've got to think of wider audiences than that as well, because there will be other influencers that might want to share your work. There may be other brands you want to interact with. A space like Instagram or LinkedIn, these are incredibly connected networks, and really you want to get in there. The way you look to others really matters here. So, authentic-based posts. What do I need to know? The main thing is the authenticity is the real style at the moment. It's what people love, it's what feels real, and as humans we need to connect to a face to get a brand. But the authenticity isn't very real. The idea behind it is that, like other influencers or people wanting to sell on spaces like social media, it's about selling a lifestyle and an idea. So you're kind of selling that more than the product, but if you're just trying to sell your product, it can be a bit difficult. I find when brands try to get a little bit smart about what they're doing, it can sometimes come across as insulting, because that authenticity is really hard to get. A great thing to remember is that if you really love your product and you really love what you're doing, there's already an authenticity there that you can bring into your work. Visual-based platforms can be a little tricky for this, as I mentioned earlier, because you can find that even if you're being very real and you're taking these selfies, if you don't know the right angles or have the right lighting, things can look a little off. So what's really worth doing is investing in some good gear, some understanding of lighting, a little bit of cameras and lenses to get that really realistic look, because it's what people connect with instantly. The idea of the perfect selfie, I mean, so much is edited these days. I think being aware that you don't have to edit all of your content for it to be immaculate and perfect, but having an understanding that the content your stuff is going alongside with might have that perfection to it, or probably does. So it's worth understanding that you might have to work a little harder for yours to stand out. Now, whether that is some tweaking in post, whether that's a filter when you're taking the content, whether that's, make it pop a little bit more and look fresh if it's a text post. You've got to consider that when you're making your work. Obvious versus covert branding is something really tricky, but I wanted to make sure I tackled here, because it's something that we have to be quite conscious about, especially because a large portion of what we do is graphic design and a bit of animation. So within that, we still want to sell that part of our business, but we also still want to keep an authentic brand. And so, for example, take our feed. Here we have a specific column for branded and professional looking posts. We do this because it represents our work as well as engage different audiences. We find that when we post this kind of content, we can really make engagement vary. For us, people are really taken by our behind the scenes shots, which overall boost our engagement, which means obviously that branded content sees larger audiences. But the whole time, we are still selling our skills, our professional behavior, our reliability to stick to a schedule. All of that is in every single post we do, whether it looks more graphically professional or whether it's a selfie that we take after a meeting. All of it is about creating an image, not of perfection, but of an understanding of the platform that we're on, which we are then selling again. Although this can seem like a lot, and I appreciate that this is a bit of a long video, it's really worth keeping in mind and just having as background information. A lot of it we learn from simply using the platforms and engaging in favourite brands, whether they're local donut shops or big corporate companies. I found some people and some brands I really want to stay connected with, and maybe not necessarily know more, but I'm up for being sold their ideas. And so in making our authentic content, we had to understand, well, what do we love engaging with and what do we need to move on with for the future? There is so much more, and we would love to tell you more about it. So please go to our website at nakamedia.co.uk and you can see, well, this talk and many other things on there. Also, if you want a little bit more information, you can always email us at info@nakamedia.co.uk and we can answer any questions you've got. We really love to engage with you and we'd really love to know more about you. So please send us an email and say hi. Thank you very much.